Alright everyone, Buzz here, and welcome back to another Battlefield 2042 video, and today we need to talk about the new update for the game as well as Season 1, which, in case you didn't know, and there is nothing definitive at this point, but it is rumored to be dropping in March 2022. In the interest of time, I want to keep this one streamlined for you, and in case you aren't yet a sub, please take a moment to hit that big, beautiful subscribe button, and if you would also hit the bell icon, it will keep you updated every time I upload another video. Let's dive right into this one. So we need to quickly review over Season 1, but before we do that, let's take a look at next week's update, or at least it should be going live next week, as the current state of the game demands it, as the last time 2042 saw an update was way back on December 9th, 2021, which in itself is a crazy statement considering the date, and with it already reaching, as of publication of this video, January 16th, and with EA DICE still going comms dark with no update news, no statements addressing the community and outlining future updates and or content. In fact, it is pretty much a non-existent line of communication with the community, with us just receiving those weekly missions, cosmetic rewards for completing those missions, and the upcoming Portal Mode experiences. At this point, EA, DICE, Ripple Effect, and whoever else is working on 2042 has had more than enough time to prepare the update that it should, and this update needs to be massive. Also, with this update, we need to go far beyond just bug fixes, which still riddle the game, but it also needs to include a huge optimization pass, as well as the installation of what EA DICE has labeled as legacy features, as well as certain quality of life items, like improving the UI, HUD, and menu systems that are poorly designed, and we also have other interface items that are simply missing that I'm still baffled as to why this game didn't launch with them. Since our last update back in December and having so much time to prepare for this update, I would hope and expect that DICE has brought back items like voice chat and a scoreboard. And just breaking script here for a quick second, but just imagine the state of affairs with 2042 if after a month of work they don't reintroduce something as basic as a scoreboard. With how the game is faring right now, 2042 simply has to drop this update next week. But since the lines of communication between DICE and the player base have been strictly on mute, we don't even know if they plan to put out this update. And really, the only bit of information for any content or improvements is that they plan to drop something sometime in March. Current player counts on the Steam charts are still not even touching 10,000 concurrent players. And I know some of you have commented in previous videos that the Steam charts do not accurately represent the console player counts, but let's be frank here, it isn't like the Steam charts are going to be less than 10,000 and then Xbox is going to have like 10 million players. They are tied together in a natural ratio. But anyways, as someone that is an absolute die-hard Battlefield fan and have played every release since 1942, I am doing my very best to stay positive out here. But EA DICE is making it really hard to do so, but the numbers, again, do not lie. There has been a seismic shift in how responsive and open the communication has been between studio and player base, and you can really feel the differences pre-holiday break to now, as you can only describe the current lack of communication as disturbing, and it really gives off this overall vibe of not caring and not having any sense of urgency. EA DICE has still not published a public statement explaining the state of the game or even apologizing as to why such a buggy mess of a product was ever released in the first place. I've seen so many comments from players who have applied for refunds and been denied, and with the game cost at launch, some of those topping over $100, from the trailers to the beta and then the live launch hard product, there is this overwhelming feeling of being suckered or duped. And who wouldn't have been sucked into that pre-launch hype? The Exodus short film was superbly produced, the gameplay trailers portrayed a wildly different product than the live game, and then even after troubled alphas and betas, the studio and certain players were both defending the mess that is 2042 with this cult-like statement of, hey man, it's only an early build, or it's only in the beta, it's gonna get much better. But as we've seen, not only did it not get better, in many ways it got so much worse. I think that a majority of buyers were looking at it being like so many other BF releases of the past, that somehow DICE was going to push it out with this Battlefield magic polish, and although it wasn't going to drop fully ready, it was going to be completely serviceable. Now, if 2042 is going to survive, which at this point is not a certainty, and not trying to be overly negative here, but I do predict that EA is just going to let this one die a quick death and act like nothing happened. But anyways, the only way that this game continues on is that DICE has to drop a substantial update this week, and the studio has to open up the lines of communication. Furthermore, EA needs to issue a full apology for the tragic state that they heaped this game onto the player base and fully acknowledge the issues with 2042. Wednesday's Battlefield briefing, if there is one, needs to include these two items. Number one, a comprehensive list of patch notes and improvements that are coming in the update. And number two, a full apology from EA DICE for this mess of a Battlefield game, along with a means of filing for and receiving a full and immediate refund despite the platform of purchase. Without these two inclusions, 2042 is going to continue to shed players left and right, bringing an abrupt and totally destructive end to this portion of this historic franchise. As someone that has sunk thousands of hours into Battlefield, I want to see this incredible IP continue on. And if possible, if 2042 somehow manages to turn it all around, I want to be able to achieve the same number of hours and immersion factor into this iteration as I've spent in previous releases. But let's be honest here, the only way that any of this happens is with an incredible amount of reworks and optimization from the studio, along with reopening the lines of communication to pre-holiday break levels. The Battlefield briefing needs to be on a weekly occurrence. I mean, Lord knows you've got plenty to discuss from week to week. Openly acknowledge your issues with this game. Apologize for this mess and be forthcoming with your struggles, and although it won't be easy to solve every issue, at least it will allow fans of the franchise to empathize on some level. Listen, we all make mistakes in our day-to-day lives, and there's no shame in admitting that when it happens. It's when you make such a huge mess of the situation and then don't openly admit anything that you understandably piss off your player base. Own your mistakes, acknowledge the issues, and for God's sake, EA, do the right thing and offer any player, regardless of hours spent in-game, to apply for and receive a full refund with zero hassle. You knew it was a mess. You knew it wasn't going to live up to previous Battlefield titles. You knew it was going to create feelings of betrayal and rage within the loyal Battlefield community. Now own it and do the right thing. Now DICE also needs to admit the issues. Maybe it was the doubling of the server sizes from the previous max of 64 all the way up to 128. Maybe it was being too ambitious in too little time, or maybe there was some sort of a monstrous shift in game design really late in the development of the game. If you were more forthcoming with the struggles with the game, if you actually spelled those out in your updates and lines of communication, I'm not saying this is going to make everything rosy, but at least some players could be a bit more understanding versus just going full-on comms dark. I've seen tweets from Drunksy and Marcus Leto acknowledging the issues and direction of the game, but so much more is needed here, and I'm not just speaking of the Battlefield briefings. The floodgate of communication needs to be opened up in both directions. It just really feels like EA sent out a memo telling everyone to not say a thing that could incriminate them, as the communication has gone from open before the holiday break to not even a drip of text afterwards. Shifting gears away from all of that, and let me quickly jump over to Season 1, which is slated to drop in March, or at least that is what has been determined from the data mined information. Now hopefully Season 1 will actually drop sooner, but since there has been zero communication from the studio in quite a while, and the last update was way back in December, we could easily see Season 1 actually dropping in March, or possibly even later than that. To imagine a live service game waiting 5 months since launch, or even more before releasing new content, is simply baffling. I wouldn't believe you if you told me another live service game like Overwatch, Apex, or even COD was not going to drop any new content for nearly half a year. But here's 2042, a game that is shedding players all over the place doing just that. And again, it could happen that the March release date is actually optimistic and Season 1 drops even later than that, although I don't see that happening, as DICE probably already had it planned out by using content that was pulled out of the live game prior to launch. Now, the entire plan for 2042 feels like it is built around monetizing the sale of cosmetics. Even with the game performing so poorly, DICE has gone all out at showcasing the sale items like skins, and even with this latest McKay skin, it looks like something that was meant for the store and or battle pass, but was pulled and inserted into the live game to keep some players interested. And overall, the battle pass feels like it's being set up and produced to be much more cosmetic heavy than previous Battlefield titles. Perhaps a much larger portion of DICE's manpower has been diverted over to making cosmetics, per an EA directive, and that is why the base game felt so undercooked and content light. I mean, I honestly don't know, but what is clear is that Battlefield 2042 needed to stick with its tried and true Battlefield formula, but instead went with a poorly implemented hero shooter formula that was bug-ridden, content-light, and completely devoid of a vast majority of the features that attracted players to Battlefield. This game needed at least 6 months to another year in development, but looking back to the launch, it was evident that EA didn't want to miss the holiday sales blitz and pushed the game out the door way before it was ready to cash in on those holiday sales. That's going to wrap up today's video, and I would appreciate you smashing that beautiful subscribe button and ringing the bell to receive my future upload notifications. If you could take the time to rate and share the video, it would mean a lot to both me and my channel. Don't forget to find and follow me on Twitch and Twitter, and you can also join my community Discord server. Links to all of these platforms in the video description below. Until the next one, thanks for watching. This is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.